Hello, welcome back to the Cash PT Lunch Hour podcast. This is Aaron LeBauer, your host, and today my special guest is Adam Fehr. Adam is a physical therapist. He's been a traveler. He does a lot of orthopedics, and I found Adam on Instagram and followed him for a while. Not only because he's got red hair, but he's also going back to med school, and so that piqued my interest because my initial thing was to go to med school, and I couldn't make it past organic chemistry, and now I'm here as a physical therapist. So Adam, thanks for spending your time with us today and coming on the show. Appreciate you having you here.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, man. So what I always love to do is have people kind of share a little bit about kind of how'd you get here and who they are. So can you tell us a little bit about what do you do right now and who do you help?
Okay. Yeah, so since I graduated in spring 2018, I've just been travel PT, working in ortho. And so obviously that kind of varies a little bit, especially just nature travel. Most demographic I worked with was probably your 15 up group. In terms of my online stuff and who I've worked with there, mostly your 20-something year olds to early 30s, athletes, CrossFitters.
Right on. And how'd you get into travel PT?
It was just kind of my plan, really, the whole time, even in undergrad. I'm from Missouri, kind of Midwest, not a whole lot around.
Yeah.
And so big goal there was I want to actually see something, see the bigger cities, see the rest of the country, and seemed like a good outlet for it. So
yeah. Right on. What's the most exciting assignment or place you've been to because of travel?
Not too much, actually. So I went down to Georgia, and then I found a girlfriend. I think towards the middle of my second contract, and then just kind of stayed around there as much as I could. So
yeah, right on. So it was like, hey, let's go see the country. You got to Georgia, found somebody special, and then that's kind of what slowed it down. Or you guys still traveling? Yeah.
Not right now. Kind of in that weird in between right now with just where the market is, plus waiting to hear back on med school. And so not really knowing what to do with myself and like where to relocate. So I've just started going a lot more all in on my online stuff because I have a lot of goals there. So
right. Awesome. Well, how'd you decide you were going to be a PT? So it sounds like you knew in undergrad you wanted to be a PT, right? Was there something that, like, did you know in high school? Did you know, or is there something that happened, an injury or someone you met or some reason you decided to go down this path?
So I actually didn't even know what a PT was until like midway through undergrad. I was always, I'm going to law school. That was my plan. A lot of things that fed into that, market collapse and other things. But basically how I got exposed to PT in the first place is I have a younger brother with special needs who has autism, cerebral palsy, some other things. And so that got my initial exposure and initial interest, and just kind of found it. Started my sophomore year of college, started looking more and more into it, and decided that's more what I wanted to do. So obviously still love it. In terms of the med school thing, it was something I considered a little bit at the time. Was drawn a little more to PT, mostly for the work-life balance type side of things, and then I became a workaholic, and then so
the work-life balance thing wasn't really there.
Yeah, that went out pretty quick.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't have work-life balance either. I kind of see it as like a work-life mix. It's like if I'm passionate about something, I always want to keep doing it, right?
Oh yeah, and that's where I've gotten with it too. It's not really giving one or the other up.
Yeah, that's awesome. What? So you graduated undergrad, went to PT school, and was it your first job out of school traveling, or did you do something else for long? Okay.
Yep, just traveling straight out.
Don't most people say new grads shouldn't travel?
Yeah, I mean that's something people or a lot of people say. Professors are obviously pretty big on that. I just think it depends on the person. Depends on the person. Depends on where you go. Like if you want to go try and travel to like a high volume PT mill as your first one, yeah, good luck. But if you can find like a good hospital based one, especially if it's rural or something like that, I think you'll get a lot more guidance. And that's kind of what I did. I went to slow paced one-on-one, hour and a half hour south of Atlanta, where there wasn't a whole lot going on. So they had a lot more patients, and it was a good time to get started and learn.
Awesome. How did you find out about that? Was it just luck of the draw, or was it?
Yeah, it was just luck of the draw. And I mean, I knew what I was looking for. So I interviewed pretty particularly with it. And I was also fairly strong student, I guess. So I was a lot more comfortable going into it than I think most people were.
Hmm. Do you think like, is there anyone that shouldn't travel right off the bat if that's what they want to do?
I think it's just their confidence level. Like if they feel like they need some guidance and need um, more mentorship at that point, then yeah, I don't think it's probably the best option. But if they
Mhm.
feel pretty confident in themselves and being able to handle a caseload and figure out things they need to, then I think it's fine. That's
Yeah,
really my only standard, I think.
right, right on. How long ago was that you graduated?
So I guess what, like 2.5 years or so now.
Okay.
So
And
mhm.
so, and you mentioned this as well, but and as you're applying back to med school, so why'd you decide to do that? Like, is PT not enough, or was there something missing, or was this like the plan all along?
So definitely was not the plan all along. I mean, like I said, I was like, I don't want to be a workaholic. I never considered being a physician when I was younger, and then here we are. Um, so what it really comes down to is, I guess, two or three things. Like, first off, I love PT still. Like, I still
Mhm.
enjoy it. My hope is to ideally go become a physiatrist, so PM&R, and kind of blend both. And there's a lot of things I'm working on to do that, like an app and some other things. So I don't want to totally leave it. It's just kind of an expansion.
Right.
Main things that draw me there is just I'm a nerd. I like to learn. I like to try and understand things. And the more I get into PT, the more I realize there's a lot I want to be able to understand that I feel
Mhm.
like I can't really do without going back to medical school. And kind of along with that, there's a lot of points I hit with my patients where I'm like, I want to be able to do more
Right.
than I can now. And so that's what draws me to it for the most part.
Is there a
But like,
specific example of like what is it? Where do you feel like you can't do it or don't know it or your hands are tied by, our regulations or practice act?
yeah, so I mean, there's the obvious ones like just dealing with medications, dealing with
Mhm.
imaging, things along those lines. And so that's a big piece of it. But sorry, I got distracted. I had to swipe something out.
Yeah, no worries.
So yeah, in terms of specifics, those are like the big ones that jump out, obviously, are just dealing with medications, getting imaging, longer plan of cares, things like that.
Mhm. I mean, is this because as a PT, you feel like your hands are tied sometimes because you can't order imaging or it
Oh,
takes too
yeah.
long to get, like if I say, hey, patient, you need to go make sure this isn't a stress fracture. And I know they might not make the appointment and it might be 2 to 3 weeks before I even hear back if I do.
Yep.
Perfect
And so
example.
that's a big piece of it too. I've also, I think, as everyone has, run into some, especially older physicians, where they try and kind of control everything you do. And obviously that doesn't really jive with me very well.
Right.
And so that's a part of it too, of course.
Yeah. Um, so going back to school, is it like, did you have to go take other classes or was it just like study for the MCAT? Had you already had all the classes and then you just apply it?
Yeah, so it varies a little bit by the school. For some schools, yeah, like one or two schools I looked at, I was good to go. I hadn't taken organic chemistry yet, so I had to go and take that,
Mm-hmm.
and that covers me for a lot of other schools. And then the rest of them, I would need biochemistry and or maybe organic too.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on what you took before, but in terms of most of the prerequisites, it's basically just same PT prereqs plus maybe OChem and biochem.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and the MCAT, and that was horrible.
Yeah.
I
So, so
didn't realize how much you forget in like 8 years.
I know. So you clearly passed organic chemistry.
Yeah, I did pretty well on chem. I did
Yeah.
really well on the MCAT,
Yeah.
thankfully.
Yeah. I got an A in chemistry 1 and 2, and then I went away for the summer and came back in the fall. I sat down for the first night of organic chemistry homework. And I was like, it's just a review of last semester. And I was like, I got an A in this, and this is going to take me 4 or 5 hours to do the first night of homework. I was like, I'm not going down this road. Like it took me 2 hours to come to that decision, but that was tough. Like what is it that's motivating you to keep going back and doing it? I mean, it's not just because yes, you like learning, but what's the long-term goal? Like, why are you so motivated to make sure that you get through med school and probably residencies afterwards?
Yeah, so I mean, the first point is learning really is actually a really big thing for me. I know
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of unique in that it's a much bigger motivator than I think it is for most people. But I'm like the weird kid that reads research and textbooks for fun. Um, on the other piece is I do want to have a pretty big impact in terms of like what I can do with my patients, obviously, but also on the healthcare system and some other things. And that's why I'm saying like there's an app I'm working on and some other things I'm working on and a lot of other goals I would have with that of trying to go and bridge the gap a little bit more between PT and MD. And so just a lot of those goals I have more in the long term help me right now and help me with that motivation.
Yeah.
I know it's nothing too sexy or crazy of an answer, but
Yeah. No, but that's important. I mean, because there is a gap and there are a lot of people stepping on each other's toes, or they think other people are stepping on their toes when really they're not. And then there's like the whole ego thing where it's like, don't tell me what to do. Like, I know what's best. And it's like, well, can't we just all get along? Where's the, like, what's the gap between PT and medicine? And is it, like, is it something that you can't do, or that, okay, if I can go and become a physiatrist, I can really help fix this? And what can you explain, like, where's the gap for you besides just ordering imaging? I mean, is it a standing gap? Is it, treatment? Is it something else?
Yeah, so things like imaging, as you said, seeing if it's a stress fracture, nerve conduction testing, seeing where any issue in a nerve is, what the extent of it is, um, diagnostic ultrasound, which I know is getting to be a little bit more common in PT, but still not something you see a lot, which can have an impact on dealing with tendinopathy or any tendon-related disorder. So that examination piece is large, as is, like I said, medications and other things. So, or injections, things on those lines. So my ideal really is basically trying to be a one-stop shop in a way for a lot of patients. And that's where I said, like, there's an app and other things I'm working on where I want to take a lot of what I'm doing online with my exercise videos, my programs, other things I've written and done, combine it together so that I can hopefully give my patients a PT program I've created for them because I have that background and that knowledge, as well as do any kind of imaging I need to, give them any medication I think is appropriate, things like that. And beyond that, if I do send them off to PT, I know a lot more what to look for. I know how to communicate expectations, and can just do a lot more, I think, in general. And so that's the goal.
So, do you, I got like a couple questions, and some I'm laughing because, like, I mean, I went back to PT school as an adult student already after 6 years of massage, and I know, like, some of the things that I encountered, whereas, like, PTs didn't really understand, like, what hands-on care can do. And it was like, hey, you only need 30 seconds of hands-on care and people are good. And I'm like, but some people need more than 30 seconds. And I have experience doing that. Are you, like, prepared to go to med school and challenge your professors and be like, I've seen this in the real world and it doesn't quite work like that on our end? I mean, is that something that you've thought about?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And a lot of that's because I had a lot of similar things in my class. Like, I was one of the babies of our PT's class. Had a lot of people that were coming from an athletic training background, massage therapy background, things like that. Like, I think our average class age was like 27 or 28 when we started. So I was one of the real little ones at 22. So yeah, I've thought about it quite a bit, and it'd be a very different scenario. I think it'd be helpful though in a lot of ways, and that's the way I look at it. Maybe I'm too optimistic, but it goes back to that bridging the gap thing, because realistically, you talk to most medical professors, medical students, physicians, period, they don't know hardly anything about PT, the PT side of things, that perspective. And so I think that can be really valuable and hopefully helpful.
Yeah, I agree. And, I mean, I know my brother's friend's a physiatrist and he doesn't really know half of what I do. And I know a bunch of orthopedic surgeons, they think we, still do hot packs, leg lifts, and ultrasound over here. And I don't know what they think we do. And it's almost like, it's like I get to the point where how do I explain to you what I actually do? Because what I do isn't always explainable in words. And I think it's really valuable to have that kind of learning experience. So what do you see most of in your patients right now that you're treating, or people that you've helped through, not just in clinic, but who've reached out to you through your social media, et cetera, about what are they struggling with? Like, is there something common that most people are struggling with that you're able to help them with, or that really all PTs, we really need to be helping people with certain things that maybe we're overlooking because of the traditional boxes we put ourselves in?
That's a great question. That's why I kind of paused.
Yeah.
There's nothing that jumps out immediately. I think one thing we do run into a little too much sometimes is just that PT can fix everything, right? And I'm very much optimistic. I think it can do a lot more than people think, but there are cases which I've run into and I ran into recently, is the only reason I say that, where something else may be indicated. Like someone I was talking to that tried working with me and like 4 different PTs before, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Like specifically, are you able to share anything about
no,
the case?
not really.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, no worries.
That's what I was trying to think. I was like, I don't
Yeah.
think I have a good answer on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that like we had someone in our clinic who it's pretty much, you can tell like it's probably a stress fracture, but maybe not. And, it was like, what are their other motivating factors for, the activities they're doing? It's like, could we help them or not? Maybe not, but we
Mm,
got to rule it out. But then I'm like, well, are they actually going to go do it? Because it doesn't hurt when it's not being aggravated. I'm like,
yeah.
well, if I could just say, hey, go do this now, and then we can rule it out. And then it's like, boom. But there's so much going on behind the scenes that are physical or not physical with all of our patients that we can't always know all the answers. But it'd be helpful to be able to have an opportunity to work alongside other people in other professions so that we can kind of knock out all the angles. But I get it. Is there what's the number one thing, like with what you share on your social media? What do you find that most people want to hear about? Like, what are there, the exercises, like the world's greatest stretch you were doing the other day, or is it education on what is back pain and where does it come from or something like that? Do you know, like, what are people hungry for?
So that's such a complex one. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier too, about depends on which demographic you're talking about, because I think a trap a lot of PTs fall into is
Mm-hmm.
they target towards PTs. And so if you're talking about that, that's a totally different thing. In terms of like your average Joe person, everybody's really looking for quick fixes, which is the fun thing. And that's kind of the challenge of social media. Because what sells really well and what everybody always wants is, oh, what's the one stretch I can do to fix this, or the one activity I can do to fix this. And fortunately, a lot of PTs fall into the trap of selling it that way. But that's the main thing people are looking for, is it's what stretch can I do? What one exercise can I do that'll like make all this go away?
Yeah. What is it?
I don't know. You find it out, you'll be real wealthy.
Yeah, it's not a stretch and it's not a pill and it's not a procedure. Probably it's probably hard work.
Yeah, and that's what I've tried to do kind of from the get-go with mine, but especially a little bit more lately, is I've kind of cut down some of the exercise video stuff so I can go a little more in depth with talking and explaining a lot more, and just doing a lot more engaging with people to try and explain a little bit more about the process and rationale behind things.
What's the number one question you get from people?
Tell me what to do after they send like their MRI report. You get those constantly. It's just, especially a lot of people like outside of the US will just send you an MRI and how do I fix this? What do I do? But in terms of number one question, there's not really a consistent one. It's, you just get constantly inundated with questions, DMs, comments of just, I have this pain, I have this issue, how do I fix it? And you just, get swarmed with that, even though they can't scroll down like 10 posts and go find something on that from like 2 weeks ago.
Right. But, yeah, that's interesting. How'd you get into social media anyways? Is this like you were traveling, you're like, hey, I got some extra time, let me go start a Instagram account or sharing some exercises? Was there like a precipitating event, or is it just your generation of millennials, right?
So it's kind of random, actually. I hadn't gotten on Instagram at all until I started this account. Like I was like a never Instagram person. I'm like, I love Facebook, I hate Instagram, whatever. And I just kind of randomly decided to start it and look at it a little bit just after boards. And originally I started targeted more towards PTs, and it's okay, this is going to be a lot more research, sharing research, talking about research, just trying to engage with PTs. And then I seen all the other exercise video stuff and other things out there that were those like 5-second quick fixes and like, here, do this to fix this. And I was like, I don't like that. And my thoughts were mostly, A, I think I can do it better because I can get more depth, and B, I want to actually try and give a little bit more depth and better solutions, or at least the best I can do with the format that's in Instagram to this average Joe people. And so that's kind of the path I went down with it. Especially because a lot of like my thoughts behind it, which I don't know if you read my personal statement I put recently, but was basically I want to try and make stuff a little more readily accessible to people that don't have a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
coming from somewhere that didn't have a lot of money and not having a lot of money myself, just kind of when I was younger. But
Yeah. Yeah. Why is that so important to you?
it's just kind of that piece of it. Like I saw the impact it had pretty clearly. Kind of like how I said before, I didn't know what a PT was until I was
Mm-hmm.
midway through college, right?
Right.
That's a lot of it, I think. Like it was not something I basically ever heard of around me. And I go and talk to other people and they're like, oh, it was all over the place where I grew up when like all my friends did it. I think the big difference here is just there wasn't a lot of money to go do it.
Yeah.
And that's pretty big impact. Like I wrote in there too is I've had chronic pain since I was younger. And I think a lot of that would have been a lot better had I had access to knowledge, information to try and address it and treat it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Cool. What's the one like thing that you would pass on to someone else based on your experience of what you just shared?
with the
Oh yeah, so with like
Mhm.
chronic pain and with making sure that more people have access to the information. Like, what is that?
um, I think the biggest thing I would just like for like practitioners, which
Mm-hmm.
what's probably listening to this, know is just how big of an impact that can have, like the monetary piece can have. Because I think a lot of people tend to just kind of write off a lot of patients they see that don't have a lot of money as they don't want it enough,
Mm-hmm.
and not really realize just how big like $50 can be to a person. And I think that's a lot of, at least in like my experience, that I've seen a lot of people have problems with, and just kind of write that off. So just realize it's often very likely not that part. It's just that they really can't afford it or have it.
Mm-hmm. What what's the best way we can fix that? Because I can like one, for instance, here in North Carolina, we don't, I don't know what the correct term is, but when there was the Medicaid expansion, North Carolina
Mm-hmm.
didn't elect to take the federal government's money. So for an
Mm-hmm.
adult on Medicaid, um, you get like 1 to 3 visits of PT. I think you get 3 visits if you've had a amputation or cancer. You get like 1 visit of PT, and it has to be in the hospital system. So I can't even treat adults with Medicaid if I want to. And if you have Medicaid in North Carolina, most likely, unless you're on Medicaid for disability, you're still more like Medicare for disability. You really have very little liquid cash. A $20 copay isn't even like a possibility. So there's a big gap here, like for services, but it's not a place in the whole country. Um, if there was one thing you could do or that you are working on to kind of bridge that gap so everyone has access to PT, like what is it, or what do you think would be the best way to make sure that everyone has it and has some kind of like foot in the door, or there's some commitment to doing it versus just free information that I can get anytime and not really want to take action on
Mm-hmm.
it. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, I understand. That's a really hard one. I mean, obviously, I don't have the magic answer. Otherwise, it wouldn't still be a problem. And it's especially hard just where our profession is, with generally being a lot more undervalued compared to other medical professions. And so you kind of run that risk of further like devaluing if you are to give things too freely, if that makes sense. So it's challenging. I don't really know how to answer it. What I've tried to do at this point to take steps against it is that free information I share online and things I try and build out there, and cheap rehab programs I'm selling and things like that. Other stuff I'm trying to work on is again that app and some other things to try and make
Yeah.
a lot more of that more readily or freely available. But
Yeah.
in the community, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like one of my ideas, or like, I think we should, I mean, there should be a PT in every emergency room for people that come
Mm-hmm.
in and have pain, to be at least be that first person to screen people with musculoskeletal pain or symptoms, because well, as far as I know, research shows that that's a cost savings effective way to triage people, but no one does it. And in order to do that, there's a lot of red tape you got to go through. So I think that there's that one thing, but whether that makes actually like treatment, it's not treatment, is it? That's more like, hey, I get to screen you, and maybe I can do some treatment in the ER. But I don't even know if that bridges the gap enough. I think, well, I guess I'd love to know, like, Adam, you mentioned your app a couple times. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that is and what is it? I mean, are you in a position to, like, some people have a non-disclosure agreement as they're developing something. So is it
Yeah,
something you can tell us about and share with what it does and what your goals are?
can't really go a lot into it.
Yeah.
Kind of twofold things though, I guess, just real loose ideas. Like I said before, just kind of giving a way for like me as a physiatrist to pass on and share a program with people. Two is same thing, trying to build in a lot of different programs and other things that people can readily access for very cheap is kind of the idea. And so try and give it a little bit more, obviously nothing that comes close to actually seeing a PT. It's like diet PT almost, but something that can try and hopefully help out a little bit. On the ER thing, yeah, it's fascinating. So where I was, I went to WashU in St. Louis, and so Barnes Jewish there, they have PTs in the ED, and that impact. And it was interesting to watch. Have you interacted much with PTs in that setting?
Or I haven't. I mean, I know that like some days I just want to be like, well, give me a job. I'll just sit here all day, because when I've been in the ER for other reasons or for friends I know or people I know, like there's people in there that are just sitting there in pain. They're waiting 6 hours and they're just, it's like, no. And I've spoken with emergency room physician here about what they do, and I know who like the administrators are, but I'm like, God, I'd have to go through like this whole, I have to go find the administrator, be like, we need to do this. And, they aren't going to care unless it saves enough money. And I'm like, I don't really have the time to go like to bat for that yet. I'm not going to be the one to do it. I'm not going to be the one that does it. And so I haven't, but I can see where it's a need, because so many people end up doing that, and then they get on opioids, or maybe they're not getting on opioids, but they're definitely not coming to see us. They're getting their MRI and scared to death, and they go get some surgery, and then a few years later they're on our doorstep, and I'm just like, that's the wrong that's the wrong order. I don't know. The way that I'm trying to do that is, educate the public, but I always want to know, like, what are other people trying to do? Like, I can see where you're going to be maybe you'll be our Trojan horse.
Well, that's a lot of the goal, really, as it is to try and set up a little bit more, at least if I get to that point, try and set up a lot more of a network kind of between PTs and physicians, whether that's just talking, trying to share ideas and kind of understand a little more where the other one's coming from.
Yeah.
One benefit of the presence I built up and things now, assuming I continue through med school, should hopefully be a lot easier.
Yeah, that's awesome.
If you ever do want data, though, I'm pretty sure WashU has some data on cost savings and all that they published.
Yeah, I know there's that WashU. There was I think a hospital in Virginia that did one. Maybe that's 10, 15 years ago, because I knew that when I was in PT school. There's also a dry needling in the emergency room.
Oh yeah, I saw that recently.
So I mean, that stuff's there, and then it's hey, I got this, and this proves me right. But then I got to have we got to go have these other conversations that just even get us in the door, or show there's the logic of cost savings, right? Because if it was all about cost savings, Medicare wouldn't pay for an MRI until someone came to see us when they had back pain, but they'll still do that because it's cost savings isn't the issue. There's politics, right?
Yeah, true.
My turf and your turf and everyone's turf. So there's a lot of other dynamics to the situation, because if it was just purely cost savings, then we would think like maybe the data would be doing something for us, even for back pain, right? Wouldn't you agree, or do you see it any differently?
No, I agree. I mean, it's just a very fraught situation in general. Yeah. Obviously, where I came from and my exposure to it was unique because it was an academic hospital in that setting. So it's not really applicable other places very readily.
Right. It would be. I think it'd be awesome if it was. Is there anything else you're working on right now? You got the med school app and teaching exercises and rehab stuff.
Yeah. A lot of it right now is I've been focusing on picking back up my account and getting it going again, because like my account was doing really well. I was one of the faster growing ones because I just hit I think like 2 years on it like last week, and my first year was really strong, really really quick. Now my last like 9 months as I focused on med school, I like neglected people, didn't talk to people.
Right.
I mean, people buy people, right? So that's what sells. That's what keeps your account alive and things like that. So I've had to kind of go reconnect and start getting that going again. So I've been focusing on that. Like I'm about to launch a little like introductory weightlifting program for like 50, 60-year-olds this
Yeah.
Sunday and just other things like that. I'm just getting going. Oh, and TikTok. That was
Yeah.
interesting.
Nice. How's
But
TikTok going?
it's weird. Um, I mean, it's a lot easier to grow for sure. Like I think I hit 10,000 in like a week and a half on there,
Mhm.
but it's a very weird, different environment. It
Yeah.
just makes me feel kind of old. But
Right. Did you on TikTok, did that grow just from the video you put there, or did you share that over to Instagram and pull people over from Instagram into TikTok too?
so definitely got like nobody from Instagram to TikTok.
Yeah.
So um, just my first couple videos did really well and got going on scene. I think TikTok kind of gives you a little bit of boost at the start to get going,
Hmm.
but it's just a weird, different environment. Because like even in terms of like same thing, people buy people, right?
Right.
But TikTok doesn't really give you the environment to like build that relationship with people very well because it's just not set up for that.
Yeah.
So like trying to make sales or anything off that, it's kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I had like 700 views on my first TikTok video and like less than 200 on the next four. And I was like, no one's watching my stuff and this is too hard. And maybe, was
Mm,
there something that you did to kind of, I mean, I know people put up videos of like someone touching the wall and they get a million views on TikTok.
mm-hmm.
I mean, is there
This
something
is weird.
specific you did or,
So I think the main things that help me, A, is the fact that I wear dress clothes, even though I get a
hmm
hard time on it in all my
hmm
videos and all those things, which on TikTok really stands out. It's like, okay, why are
yeah,
you um, there? Then I have my little banner with like my name behind it because everything's like a 10, 15-second clip.
right.
TikTok mostly goes by like how much of that do you watch, how much do they rewatch. So if they're looking
hmm
at all those things, that catches attention. I think that's the main piece of it because all I've posted is just really simple stretches and like those quick kind of things.
Yeah,
And I don't know, like I said, it's just a different environment.
that's
I don't
interesting.
know.
What works best on Instagram for you? Like comparing like TikTok to Instagram, is it the same kind of things and or stretches or like is there certain posts or post formulas that you've done that like get a lot more views than others?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I actually actively don't do what would probably do the best
Hmm.
because it doesn't really fit with my brand goal and what I'm going for. The
Yeah.
things that do the best are, like I said, those like quick fix type things, which you
Hmm.
see a lot of people do. Of here's like 2 quick stretches in like 15 seconds to fix this or fix that.
Right.
And so posting short little clips like that do really really well, take off because short attention span promises a big solution. But I don't like to do that because it's not realistic. It doesn't really fit to that whole
Right.
trying to give people something they can take action off of. In terms of my stuff, it just really depends. Basically, anything about the glutes does really well because
Uh-huh.
people love the butt, and a lot of stuff about like back pain
Yeah.
generally
Yeah.
does pretty well.
Yeah. And is it just because everyone has back pain at some point?
I think that's a big piece of it. Yeah, it's just more widespread net, and that's one thing PTs run into on there too. Is like
Mm.
if you focus on a condition of like people that see it, there's only going to be a really small percent that's applicable to, right?
Right.
So that's a little harder to kind of keep people engaged every time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Have you you told me beginning of the show or before we started recording and even like on our email correspondence before or messaging you kind of did like a self Instagram audit as maybe even as you were coming back you realized you've got bigger different segments of your audience that you didn't really realize. I mean, I've done that recently too where I went back and looked at some stats. I was like, holy cow, like 4% of the people that follow me live in New York City. Well, it's the biggest city, but then
yeah,
the second most is my hometown. Um, is there like a specific way that you're now kind of changing things based on the new information about who the people are that are either the followers on your account or people that are commenting, paying attention, etc.?
yeah. So it'd be tricky. If I was really aggressively looking to just make money off it,
Mm-hmm.
it would definitely be an indication that I should change. So the big thing is I realize there's a bigger percentage of PTs, especially like foreign trained PTs that
Mm-hmm.
follow me than I'd realized. And so if I was just trying to make money, I'd shift it a little bit more to that. Like I
Yeah.
said, though, my goal if it's a little more complex than that.
Yeah.
So my target's still mostly trying to give a resource for your layperson, especially your layperson that can't afford a whole lot.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I'm not really shifting my focus too much there. Maybe a little bit in the future, but for now, no.
Yeah, right on. I think a lot of PTs follow others, wanting to see what they're doing too. It's like great ideas and inspiration. I mean,
Yep.
I've learned the most. I've learned the most about like pain science education for my patients by reading Adrian Lowe's book that he wrote for patients, not the 300-page textbook. Like I got the textbook, I was like, I'm not reading that thing. I read the 35-page book, and I was like, sweet. Like, I mean, there's a ton of value in like explaining
things for sure
quickly, right?
Oh yeah, and I mean, everybody has different experiences and things too. So, yeah. I mean, it's helpful for me to watch a lot of the stuff by PTs that specialize in golf or gymnastics or these other things I have no idea about, and just kind of their take on it too. So,
yeah. What, Adam, I think you're really good at this because you've already said this a couple of times, but what is it that you don't know enough about that you're probably never going to learn?
Like everything. Just the more I learn about everything, the more I just realize we're not going to have an answer to everything, and I'm never going to really be that satisfied with what we get. So yeah, I guess that's kind of my answer, because it doesn't matter if we're talking pain science. It doesn't matter if we're talking tendon issues, or back pain or anything. I just think I've kind of come to realize and accept that just never going to know enough about anything. Just kind of have to find a comfort zone where I can accept it and be satisfied, I guess, with it, or that it's good enough.
So if I can't know enough of everything, or if I can't know everything, how do I help people?
And so that's where I said it's just finding that border of when do I know enough to make do with what I have. And that's where obviously knowledge is always changing. We're always learning more steadily and just updating as we go along. I mean, that's why things are so different in practice now than they were 10 years ago. Yeah. It's just realizing we aren't going to have a certain answer, and just being uncomfortable with the uncertainty and just taking basically an educated approach.
Yeah, that's awesome. What superpower does your red hair give you?
I turn red in the sun. Really easy.
That's awesome.
Get these little dots all over me.
Yeah, I've got I bought stock in sunscreen a long time ago. That's great. What if you could give advice to your younger self, even if it was like you at like 21 or 18 somewhere, like is there anything that you would say to yourself,
I think the biggest thing is probably just don't really doubt what you think it is you want to do or what you want out of life, and kind of your life goals there. Because that was the big shift. Like I said, I had actively chose PT because I'm like, I don't want to be a workaholic. I want work-life balance. Mostly because I thought my expectations on what I would want out of life and what goals I would have would change. They haven't changed though. And at least not very much. And I think had I trusted myself and kind of my instinct back when I was a little younger, I'd be in a much different spot in a whole lot of different ways.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest thing.
Awesome. What's your 10-year goal?
At this point, well, right now it's to hopefully just get accepted into medical school, and then I would finish in about 8 or 9 years.
Wow.
And so that's pretty much the entire 10 years.
Yeah. So it's get through that process. Do you have like a longer 20-year goal? I mean, is there something concrete way out there, or is it just this thing is such a big hill right now? It's like just focus on getting to the top.
Yeah, so I do, and that's where I said kind of trust on where you think you want to go, because I've always been very much a planner long term. I mean, my ideal scenario, and it goes back to the wanting to bridge the gap a little bit, is to ideally go somewhere, become a physiatrist, and take on some form of like academic clinical role in both like an MD and a DPT program somewhere, and help try and kind of bridge that gap and educate and both sides on what the other has to offer a little more.
That's really awesome.
Yep.
Hell yeah. Does that exist already? Are there MD DPT programs, or is it just like kind of place it like a medical school that does both of them?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like WashU, where I went, for example, has DPT, and then I mean a couple blocks away the MD program. Yeah. Things like that, and like a lot of faculty teaching both.
Yeah. Cool. At that point, do you think you'll be out of touch with what the younger kids want to do and want to know?
I think so. I mean, I'm all right. TikTok's already shown me I am. Like all these little like slang terms and things popping up. I'm like, I have no
Yeah.
idea what this is.
Right. Right.
Only way I half noticed because my little brother is like 13. If it wasn't for that, I would. Like, I
Yeah.
just found out what bet means recently. I'm like, I'm not that old,
I
but
don't even know what that means. Is it,
I
shareable?
still, I still don't really know. It's just like, I think it's like they use it kind of like that's chill.
Uh-huh.
Or yeah, like they say that's bet is what I mostly hear, but I've heard it used like different ways too. So I'm still slowly figuring it out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, if someone wants to get in touch with you, connect, or check out what you're doing over on Instagram, what's your Instagram or website or best place to find you online?
Yeah, Instagram's probably the easiest. So that's just dr.afehr.dbt. And that's my handle there.
Okay.
We're just looking up my name. There's not a whole lot of Adam Fairs out there.
Yeah. Fehr, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So there's like Adam Bagel Boy out there.
All
He
right.
always comes up. He always comes up first. It's not fair.
Nice. Nice. Well, there's no other Aaron LeBauers, and there's probably no other Adam Fairs either, so it should be pretty easy to find. I mean,
No, there's Adam Bagel Boy out there
Adam
somehow.
Boy. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Adam, is there anything else you think would be helpful for people listening to know or think about before, whether they're applying to med school or treating patients?
I think the biggest advice I'd probably have that I'd share right now is just when it comes to building Instagram and as a student and younger students, because I'm seeing more and more of that happen. And it's just the age group. Because I'm kind of like, I guess at this point, like a middle of the road one in terms of age. Because I got kind of on the end of a lot of the bigger accounts, but now students are jumping in all the time. And I think my biggest advice for them is just wait until you've learned a little bit more. Because there's a lot of people I keep seeing in like their first semester of PT school trying to build it out. I'm like, fortunately, you haven't really gotten real in. And two, just look at that audience thing, because it's the same thing. A lot of them keep falling into that trap of marketing towards basically PTs in terms of what they make, but their whole purpose from their bio is trying to target the layperson. And so just try and talk to a layperson like you're talking to a patient, not like you're talking to a PT.
Yeah, I think that's a common mistake for new PTs, and I've seen people who've been in it for a long time. We get so into our language that it's almost like it doesn't translate. That's what you're saying? Like it's like we're using our big medical words and not like the words that people understand.
Yep, and that's what I was getting at.
Yeah, yeah. Is there anything specific that sticks out at you, like something you've like learned yourself or found effective, where it's instead of a like musculoskeletal problem or hernia disc, if you talk about it in this way, is there some example that you can give us or
Yeah. So I have actually been surprised that most patients seem to be pretty familiar with the diagnoses, especially most that are looking for a PT at that point because they have a diagnosis, have a diagnosis, or they've heard it by that point because they're a little older. The main thing is just trying to avoid using any kind of medical terms and trying to overcomplicate it. Like keep it very general, like you're talking to your mom, basically, because that was the biggest shift. Is once I made my tone a little more casual, I still talk pretty professional, but once I made it a little more casual and like I'm just having a conversation with like a parent, things started doing a lot better.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so important. Well, man, thank you for coming on the show today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to be here. If you guys want to go check out Adam, he puts up some awesome videos and information online. Even just go check out what he's doing to see, where he's heading and get some inspiration for your exercises and patients. And you're clearly doing some great things. And so, Adam, I wish you all the luck with med school. And hopefully you get through it,
Thanks.
Unscathed, but I really
just a lot of debt.
Yeah, there's a lot of debt, but what's debt? I mean, as long as you pay as little as you can every month, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Been going good so far.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Again, this is the Catch PG Lunch Hour with Aaron LeBauer and Adam Fehr, and we'll see you on the next show. Pursue your dreams at all costs, and keep going after helping patients no matter what. We'll see you on the next time.